Good morning, students. It's a great pleasure having all of you present here today for this live lecture. Before we begin the lecture, let's see the information first. Class 8, subject English, we are studying, and the book we are reading is Communicate with Cameras. Unit 7, we are studying, and this is section B. Unit 7, once again, it's all about making choices. And the section B talks about my date with Greybeard, right, everyone? That we have understood. Students, please hold a minute. So what were we studying? We were studying like my date with Greybeard. Why it is? Because it talks about we are going to study this second lecture. That means like we have already completed first lecture properly. So let's see the next one, what we are going to study. As of now, what we studied, as of now, students, what we studied that the narrator, he was just waiting over there. He was just waiting for 3 years to get a chance to just hit or like kill the Greybeard. Because once a year, they had plans to just organize some sort of functions to kill the Greybeard or to hunt that. And now it was the time for him to get opportunity. He crossed 14 years now, and now he is eligible to go there. Now he was just waiting to get a chance. And now the time is there. What happened now in the next? In the gray light of early morning, we congregated in the valley. Congregated, you just need to underline this, students. Congregated means what? Let me just see this. You just need to see, students. Congregated means gathered. Means they all gathered. Means ikatthe hona, ekatrit hona. In the valley. They all gathered in the valley. The beaters were dispatched to the top end. Beaters, I told you people in the last lecture also, beaters are those people who just get the greybeards or the hunting animals from their hidden or concealed places, right? They used to do some sort of tricks or like tactics with the help of which they could take out the hunts from their hidden places. That's called bitter. So the bitter were sent to the top end, and we hunters drew lots for position. We hunter means like our narrator was also there. He was also hunter there. He was also there to just hunt that greybeard. They were planning to shoot like this. So they just found their places where to hide themselves. The best position were close to the cliffs. Cliffs, I told you, sort of chatane, right? Small mountain type. You can take chatane, jinko cliff bolte hain, because bush bugs tend to climb in their effort to escape the pursuing dogs. When the dogs are chasing that bug that comes through the bushes, means jhadiyon se hote hue aata hai, that comes in the bushes and tries to climb up and tries to escape from the dogs. He means the bug tries to save himself from the dogs, though the dogs will change him, and then he would come here. To my bitter disappointment, I drew a position down near the river. Bitter disappointment means a bit disappointed, nirashta thoda sa, because he drew the position, he got a position near the river. Then I heard my father, who had drawn a good stand, say, I'll change with my boy. Then his father came there. Narrator's father said, like, he would change his position with his son, right? Like what he said, I would like him to have a good place for his first hunt. Father was just trying to encourage him and was saying, like, this is the first hunt, this is the first hunt of the boy. So I want to give him the better place from where he could just view that greybeard and can shoot him properly. This was others thinking basically about the child. He wanted him to just have a right place where he could just go ahead and could just kill that, right? As he walked past me, he patted my shoulder. And when narrator's father went close by the narrator, the father patted the back, means shoulders, thatapaya unki back, unke shoulder. Oh, see that you get the old one. He whispered with a smile. Old one means the bigger one, not the small one, not the children, kids basically of the Greybeard, but the big one. He wanted to just say him that you need to get or shoot the big one. Old one means the big one. They whispered with a smile. So father whispered with a smile. Now you see, students, the picture is before you. What do you see in the picture? Like the narrator is standing there and the Greybeard is before him and he is taking shoot. Now you just need to imagine what will the narrator do? Will it shoot the Greybeard or wait or like miss? What will happen? Let's see the next. I scrambled up the steep slope, determined to outdistance the others and find the best possible place of concealment. Scrambled means to go up, to go ahead. Up means ऊपर चढ़ना. The steep slope, खड़ी ढलान जो होती है, that's called steep slope. खड़ी ढलान के ऊपर वो जाता है. Determined to outdistance means he was sure that this is a bit away distance is there. The others, जो other hunters थे, and find the best possible place. And this is the best possible place from where he could conceal himself. Conceal means like students to hide himself so that he can take clear shoot and he can shoot it properly. So he was a bit happy, like he has got the right place from where he can hunt properly. I selected some broken boulders. Broken boulders means like conquered. Boulders means students, this is called conquered basically. This is called boulders. You just need to do one thing. You just need to be conscious to underline the words or note down their meanings. Boulders means like small, छोटी-छोटी जो कंकड़ होती है उनको जो है boulders बोला जाता है. These are called boulders. Small conquered, well screened by bush, which gave me a line of fire across a small clearing. Now you see he got a like a sort of a sound or inclination that with the help of which like he got the indication like sort of inclination like from the clearing. सामने से जो है बिल्कुल साफ. Clearing means the open area. For a long while there was no sound. Before some time there was no sound, but now then came the shout of the beaters. Now there was the sound of the beaters. Beaters were creating sound by either shooting or throwing their weapons like they had on the Greybeard. The sound of sticks beaten against trees. Now you see they were using sticks and they were beating the trees. They were creating chaos in the forest from with the help of which the Greybeard or like the hunt animal would get out from their concealed or hidden places and would start running. As they start running, the hunters will shoot them. And the yelping of dogs, and there was sound of dogs barking. Yelping means like students, the barking of the dogs. Yelping means like shouting or like making much noise of the dogs. First came a doe. Doe means like small, doe means kid of the buck, you can say. Small doe. First came a doe, blundering past me in panic. Blundering past me in panic that went through me, close by me very fast. Stricken flight. Then a young buck. Then a young buck. Young buck means hiran. और फिर जो है एक हिरन जो है मेरे पास आती है. I let him pass और मैंने उसको भी जाने दिया. I just let him pass, let go. Greybeard might be following and I was determined not to betray my position. Now, narrator, our author is saying Greybeard might be following means Greybeard would be just after them. That would be chasing them and would be coming back. So narrator just put determination, decided not to shoot them, rather to shoot Greybeard. And then he just held his position with determination. But there was no further movement. There was a gap after going doe and above. There was a gap. No movement was there. No sort of movement was there. And I wondered if Greybeard had crossed lower down. Wondered means he was surprised, like if the Greybeard had gone from the lower, means नीचे वाली जगह से ना चला गया हो. Then a trembling of the bush caught my eye. Trembling of the bush means there were bushes in the down, he could see, and what he saw there, these were trembling means hill rising. These were shaking basically. These were trembling. So when he saw this, these were trembling of the bush caught my eye. That caught my eye. Not 10 yards from me. Not 10 yards from me. It was not 10 yards from me. It was close by. Greybeard stepped to the edge. Edge means came out of the bushes, and this was the close by edge corner patha of the trees, silently inspecting clearing and clearly keeping quiet. Silently, he was trying to inspect that there was no one in the clearing, means in the open space. The ambition of my youthful life was at the point of achievement. The ambition means, what does it mean by ambition? It talks about he was having such a strong wish or desire as he wanted. This was their ambition. And what it was of my youthful life was at the point of achievement. Means the thing basically on the point he just decided to shoot the Greybeard and to get the medal or the appreciation. The moment was before him. It was close by to him. Was at the point of achievement. Greybeard stood motionless. Without making any sort of movement, Greybeard was standing there before me. Means samne. I had only to pull the trigger to bring him down. There was only one point, he just need to pull down the trigger. उसको सिर्फ ट्रिगर को दबाना था, and that would bring down that Greybeard, and that can kill the Greybeard. Yet something made me hold my fire. Narrator is saying he doesn't know what happened with him. Something happened to him. He stopped his firing. He did not pull the trigger. The buck had turned his head now, and till now, meanwhile, the buck, the Greybeard, turned his hand and his great ears twitched to catch the sound of the dogs. And his ears got the sound of the dogs which were chasing that buck. His moist nose trembled. His nose got a sound of sense and got it like the dogs were chasing. And his eyes softly luminous means clear, clear alert without being fearful. That was not looking like he was feared, without being fearful, seemed to stare right at me. Without having any sort of fear, it was just staring at me. There was pride and dignity in every line of his body. The narrator is showing, as he was just looking the body language of the Greybeard, it has pride, गर्व था उसके अंदर, dignity, मर्यादा थी. He was just having these things in his body language, and I knew suddenly that I could not destroy him. The narrator is saying, as he saw him such a determined and having pride, I could not take decision to destroy or to kill him at that moment. For several breathless moments, he remained where he was. For several breathless moments, he remained where he was, and then a sudden change of the breeze carried my man's smell to him. In two huge leaps, he crossed the clearing and was gone. And you only see now what happened basically. For a moment, he was standing there, but all of a sudden, what happened? There was a sort of sound. He smelled like men have come, or the dogs were chasing. So he took huge leaps. Leaps means jump. Make a big jump. He crossed the clearing. Clearing means like the open space while just running, while just going fast. He was just going very fast. While running, he took the leaps. He took the leaps, means jump. He crossed the clearing, open space cleared and was gone or वो जा चुका था. I stayed where I was, silent and enraptured. So narrator is saying, I was wherever I was staying there. I was silent and raptured. That refers to like intense pleasure of joy. Enraptured. Enraptured means like students, intense pleasure or joy. He was feeling good of not destroying or killing that greybeard. When the drive was over, my father came up the slope. So the narrator is saying when the drive was over means the hunting time was over and his father came up slow, ढलान से वो नीचे आए. I unloaded my gun and pushed the shells. He just unloaded, take out the like guns from the case, gun case, and unloaded it basically. And what happened in that? Shells back into the loops. Loops means like shape of a cover or circle cover where you keep the bullets of the revolver or the pistol you have. My father's quick eye took in the details of the stand I had occupied. And narrator is saying like my father took in the details of the stand I had occupied, where I was. My father just observed this all and the full of belt of cartridges. Cartridges means cartouche होते हैं बंदूक के गोली के. That is called cartouche. Belt of cartridges. No luck, he asked. I shook my head. And father said, no luck to shoot. This was the first chance for you, not the last. At first you got the opportunity, but you lost it. I shook my head. Narrator is saying, I shook my head in his confirmation. Yes, it happened. That's funny, he said. The boys cited. It's a funny. The boys means other people. Cited means so. The greybeard coming towards you, greybeard coming in this direction, and none of the others' guns saw him. And none of the other guns means the other hunters did not see him, and they saw like the greybeard was coming this side from the very far. I looked down at the ground and then I did not make eye contact, look down. My retentions means like unwilling to talk or uncommunicative. This means he was not ready to talk basically, not willing to talk. Must have aroused his suspicions, for he walked across the clearing and paused beside the deep imprints the buck had made in the moist earth as he jumped. So now what we understand, the narrator is just thinking like, for he walked across the clearing as he just jumped and took very long leap and complete and crossed the clearing means the open space within a moment and paused beside the deep imprints means the buck had made in the moist earth means where he was just standing and looking at him or like staring. It must have got some sorts of prints. It would get in the moist earth as he jumped. And as he pushed this earth place, there must have been got prints there. Imprints were would be there. I walked away unable to face the contamination which I imagined on my father's face. So what happened next? Contamination means like a statement or expression of very strong criticism. So what it was basically contamination. He was just trying to keep himself away from the contamination, from the criticism that people don't talk to him or don't talk about him, that he faced the greybeard, but he did not shoot it. He just missed the opportunity or got scared. These types of contamination means criticism. He just was avoiding it, which I imagined on my father's face. And the author is saying he just saw this on his father's face. He just saw this, that what is all happening, which I imagined on my father's face. As we drove home, the thought of old greybeard gathering his dust together for another year of safety gave me a thrill of pleasure. Now you see, when the narrator and his father came home, he got a thought of this old graybeard. About this old graybeard's thinking came in his mind, that was just coming, gathering his dust together for another year. Means now he has got another year and he has saved, kept like safe that graybeard. For one more year, he would have chance to just kill him, and thrill and pleasure that will go one more year ahead. Why? Because they just did this once a year. They just organize hunt once a year so that they can enjoy themselves there. Right, everyone? So they just did this all. They just tried to enjoy the moment once a year. Whether they kill that or they miss that. That is the luck, basically. Right? So what was narrator thinking? Narrator was thinking like, he has got another year to enjoy. But my father's silence had put a constraint. Constraints means something that limits someone upon us. Finally, he asked, what happened, son? That means father was having a sort of doubt about the son, like there must have been something very different. Then what happened, basically, the father asked to his son, like, what happened, son? What happened there? Shyly, stumblingly means like you are, wait, let me just underline this. Stumbling means like problem or temporary failure. It's not a sort of permanent failure, temporary failure or a problem. Shyly, he don't. Shyly means was not making statement frequently. He was feeling a bit shy. I tried to tell him, I described Greybeard as I had seen him. Now, narrator is saying, I described everything to my father, how I had seen that Greybeard, majestic and fearless. It was fearless, means no sort of fear was at his face. I tried to explain why I knew I could not buy the hunter's badge at the price of so much splendor. Means he said that he did not want to take the hunter's badge. Badge means tamga jo hota hai, jo medal jisko hum bolte hain, just by killing that splendor. So much splendor means shandar. जो एनिमल था उसको मार करके मुझे बैचेस नहीं चाहिए था. I did not want that. My father was silent for a moment and then he said slowly, and you see father listened this, and after a moment he said this slowly, you've learned something today. You've learned something today, son. Something that many men live a lifetime without knowing. You've learned something today. You've learned something today means you had a chance to learn something. You learned it basically. Son, something you learned, very good. Many men live a lifetime without knowing. And in this universe, there are many people who spend their life, who waste time of learning this, but they don't get to learn this. He put his arm around my shoulder. Father put his arm around his shoulder. You have learned compassion, he said softly. And father said to his son, like, you have learned compassion, desire to help someone who is weaker or in trouble, empathy you call it, जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं सद्भावना. Compassion means desire to help someone who is weaker or like in trouble. You are ready to help them. You have learned it. People take much time to do this. People take much time to learn this. Now they have learned it. Right, everyone? See, students, that's enough for today's lecture. The chapter is over. You'll get the question answers today. And by Monday, you need to complete your notebooks. Everyone, notebooks will be checked. If any one of you has got any sort of doubt, you can ask. Is there anyone, whoever wants to ask anything? No one wants to ask anything. That's really very good. That seems to be really good. Like it's quite easy. All the students are understanding this. So see, students,